Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today we're starting a new series called How to Start a Nation. So as many of our followers will already know, we already have a playlist on our YouTube channel called How to Start a Micronation. Now, this is a very popular aspect of our channel in that it has some 25,000 views, over 1,000 likes, and hundreds of comments across the dozen or so videos that make up this playlist. But for all that said, we are looking to distance ourselves from the term micronation and have no interest in affiliating with the Micronational community. And so even though the term micronation and micronationalism and micronationalist is something that you'll see time and again in our previous content, and we're not trying to omit that in any way, we want to preserve that, if you like, because it's a part of our history, it's a part of our evolution. And so all of the videos and publications in the past will remain up, but going forward we will be not referring to ourselves as a micronation. We will not be referring to ourselves as micronationalists. We are not part of the micronational community and all the rest of it. And the reason for this, and I have made a video about this before, is it comes down to, I think, the idea that a micronation can be anything to anyone. Just completely devalues it to the point where it's just meaningless jargon. And the consequence of this is that when you come across micronations, they come in so many different shapes and sizes and aspire to do so many different things that there is really nothing that binds them together except for the term micronation, because they only claim sovereignty. And if that is the bare minimum that a micronation has to adhere to in order to be classed as a part of the community, then I wouldn't have really wasted my time in making the entire series in the first place. I could have summed it up in 15 seconds by saying, quickly come up with a name, come up with a flag, claim your public park, and hey presto, you're a micronation, welcome to the Micronational community, we'll see you at MicroCon, pay your $150 deposit or whatever it is, and then dissolve it 2 weeks later once you realise there's some effort to be put into it in order to make it successful. So the question then becomes, what makes Stomaria and the member states of its empire, and indeed other entities like us, different from micronations? And I think that this really just boils down to the question of sovereignty, in that micronations, for the most part, will claim sovereignty. But we're striving for sovereignty, and I think this is fundamentally what the difference is. This is where the line is drawn, because we are not shy about the fact that our aspiration is to establish real-world communities with their own cultural identities that are looking to attain greater levels of self-reliance and self-determination, to attain a de facto independence through legal and legitimate means in as much as we can. We know we are not sovereign in our own right, but we are striving for that. We are looking decades and generations ahead. We are hoping to establish something that people after us will build upon. And we are doing this because we believe that we are promoting values and we are aspiring to accomplish objectives which are important to us. And we're not trying to convince the world that this is how it should be. But what we are doing is we are gathering up like-minded people, and we are trying to take our little own corner of the world and simply living our best life, trying to live the way that we believe is the best way forward. And most micronations don't have any interest in that. Most micronations aren't looking to establish a new society, a civilization, a community. They're trying to do all manner of other random things that, as far as I'm concerned, has nothing to do with the core concept of what a micronation should be. And so this term micronation has simply lost its way. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. And that's why we are actively trying to distance ourselves from it. So when establishing a nation or a community that is striving for sovereignty, you don't want to be looking at micronations, because micronations for the most part are not looking to attain sovereignty. They are simply claiming sovereignty and leaving it at that. They have no aspiration to take things further. And so the question then becomes, well, who do I look to in order to establish this new society, this new civilization that I want to build? And the answer is simple. You look at human history and you look at the present day. You research government systems, you research economic systems, monetary systems, and all the rest. You don't look at Dave from down the road who happens to have a flag and claims an island in the Pacific for advice about how to establish a real-world community or a civilization or a society. You want to talk to historians, you want to talk to economists, you want to talk to philosophers, you want to look at the history of the world and piece together something that can be built from scratch. And this is what Stomaria has done, in that we are not shy about the fact that we look to history, and I look to history, and I see what works, and I see what doesn't. And I try to apply what works to Stomaria, and anything that doesn't work, I put to one side. And this can be seen throughout everything that we do within Stomaria. Take the flag of Stomaria as a prime example. The 8-pointed star of Stomaria is something that's been derived from the star of Ishtar. Now, this is a Sumerian goddess in ancient Mesopotamia. It is the cradle of human civilization. And the reason that we took this particular design and sort of adapted it to our own needs is because it is impactful. It is about the first human civilizations in the world, and we ourselves are creating something new, a new civilization. And so it has a meaning, a symbolism to it that's important from our own perspective. Indeed, in the late 1950s and the early 1960s, modern-day Iraq, where Mesopotamia is, actually use the star of Ishtar themselves in their own flag. So it has some meaning in that region as well. Or take the silver Stomarian stater coin. Where does the term stater come from? It comes from ancient Lydia, some 2,500 years ago. They had their own stater coins, and these were the first coins in the world, the first gold and silver coins. And this is important to us because, as many people will know, we are keen advocates for the utilization of sound money, of commodity money, in our own monetary system. And leading on from that, we are advocates for voluntary taxation. For entities like us, it's a given that that is how we have to operate, because we cannot force someone to contribute financially to Stomaria. There is no enforcement mechanism that we have. Everything that we do is based on voluntary association and voluntary affiliation. And the idea of having a voluntary taxation system is actually something that I found when researching ancient Athens. This is the system that they applied. They believed that the wealthiest in society had a moral duty, an obligation to provide for the common good, especially in times of crisis, but also in terms of simply just general public works. And this is the kind of system that we have applied within Stomaria. So when you become a citizen, there is obviously a minimum monthly threshold that you have to meet, financial contribution that you have to pay in order to identify as a Sumerian citizen. But for those who want to contribute more and those that are able to contribute more, that option is there. So we do have people paying above what would be expected of them because they believe in what we're doing and because they want to see us succeed. And that has been taken from the taxation system that was applied in ancient Athens some 2,500 years ago. And the uniform of the Imperial Guard is in itself inspired by the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the early 20th century. Indeed, the actual sabres that we carry are also Hungarian in origin and design. And you can see this blend of cultural identities and civilizations in this sabre, and this is why we actually chose it, because you can see this East and West coming together to form this fantastic looking sabre, in that the actual handle is very Western in design, but the actual blade is something that you will find in the Near East. And this is the result, this blend of cultures and civilizations. And even the establishment of an empire like us, a federal empire, this has been inspired by countless other empires throughout human history that I have taken an interest in. The Persian Empire, the Carthaginian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. These empires of different peoples and communities, of these different cultures and identities, that is what I want to build, but something that's based on voluntary association, not force or coercion. And so again, we have taken all of these different aspects and much more from human history, and we have tried to apply it to Stomaria. And it really goes further beyond this when we look to the present day. For instance, even though it's not a particularly interesting subject to many, it is nevertheless very important, is soil health, soil fertility. Because according to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, we only have about 60 years worth of topsoil left, which is necessary for growing some 95% of all of our food. And for some reason, this isn't a big talking point, but this is something that Stomaria itself is very keen to promote. Soil fertility, soil rejuvenation. It's in our objectives, it's in our aspirations, it's something that we do talk about as much as we can, but it doesn't obviously inspire the same level of interest and enthusiasm as some of our other policies and objectives, but it is nevertheless something that's incredibly important and something that we want to promote. Another one would be energy independence, if you like, to reduce your dependency on other nations, other entities and communities for your energy needs. And I think this was brought home for a lot of people in recent times, obviously, with Russia obviously causing some problems in terms of supplying oil and gas to the rest of the world. And for some reason, no one ever thought that promoting an independent energy sector based on renewables would be a good way to mitigate that. And so this is reflected in our beliefs as well, in that we believe in trying to attain a greater degree of independence in terms of providing our own energy. And going even further beyond that, there are aspects to Stomaria that are relevant and personal to me, because I am the founder of Stomaria. And a very good example of this would be the name Stomaria is actually derived from an RTS game called Empire Earth from the early 2000s, because that is ultimately what inspired the creation of Stomaria in the first place. And as cringy as that might be for a nation, for a community, for an entity that is trying to attain greater levels of self-determination and self-reliance, is trying to attain a greater level of sovereignty, trying to attain de facto independence, if you like, it is nevertheless true. It is a true origin story, and it's not something that we've just made up. So I'm afraid it just is what it is, and I will get onto that more during the video in which I go over how to name your community, how to name your nation, and that will hopefully be coming out in the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, if you did want to become a part of the Stomarian community, then please feel free to do so through our Patreon campaign, the link of which I shall leave in the description below as always. But otherwise, if you did enjoy this video, then please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.